Hello, welcome to another video on Mathematics 8, and today we're learning about expression and evaluation of the expressions. Before we get started, there are some knowledges that you need to know. Well, you first need to know how to evaluate numbers. For example, 2 times 3 plus 4, or 1/3 times 5 minus 1, including the brackets. The objective of this lesson is that you can evaluate the value of the expression by substituting a variable with a number. And the goal of this lesson is that you can verify your solution for the equation that you have just solved in the previous lessons. Let's try the first example question. Evaluate x plus 5 at x equals 2. So in order to evaluate an expression, we need to use this method called substitution. A substitution means that we replace the variable in the expression with the number that is given to us. In this case, we're using x equals 2 as substitution. So it means that we're going to replace x with 2. So that means in place of x, I'm going to write 2. Just make sure that whenever you do the substitution, make sure you put the bracket around that number to make sure that we protect it, especially when you have negative numbers or you have some coefficients or multiplications on it. It's going to be very handy. So we replace x with 2, put bracket around it at first. So that's 2 plus 5. Well, in this case, there's no need for a bracket, so let's remove that at no cost. So 2 plus 5 is 7. So we know that the value of the expression at x equals 5 is 7. Let's annotate the work here. So the first thing is that we do substitute x with 2 on the expression. So we're substituting the x with a 2. And you also want to make sure you use brackets. And this is very important that you put the brackets so that we protect that substitution. And then we just have to evaluate afterwards. Evaluate. Evaluate, once again, it means it's to calculate. So we do the 2 plus 5 and we get 7. Let's move on to the next question. Evaluate 1/3 x minus 5 at x equals -2. Let's do the same thing. Once again, we're doing substitution of x. In this case, the substitution is -2. So I'm going to rewrite the expression, the same thing, 1/3, but instead of writing x, I'm going to write -2. And make sure that you use the bracket here. You definitely want to use the bracket in this case, otherwise you might mistake the entire problem. So I wrote 1/3 bracket -2 close bracket. Now I need to calculate this. I need to simplify this. One thing that we know is that if you have a number and a bracket right next to each other, in math we agree that there is a little multiplication between them. So at this point we need to do 1/3 times -2. So how do I multiply fraction and a whole number? Well, we can't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it as 1/3 times. I'm going to write -2 the whole number as a fraction. And any whole number can be written as a fraction by using over 1. So I rewrote -2 over 1. Now it's a fraction. Now I know how to multiply the fractions. We just need to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. 1 times -2, that's -2. And 3 times 1, that's 3. Now I need to subtract a fraction by a whole number. Can I do that? Well, no. So once again, let's switch a 5 into a fraction. So that's going to be negative 2 over 3 minus 5 over 1. So at least they're both fractions now. Well, what can I do at this point? Can I subtract two fractions with different denominators? No. So we need to match. We need to find a common denominator. In this case, I think if I multiply the second fraction by 3 on the numerator and the denominator, then the new denominator will be 3, which means that we can do the subtraction at this point. So that's going to be negative 2 over 3 minus 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 3 is 3. So now they have the same denominator. Now we can do the subtraction. So that's going to be negative 2 minus 15 divided by 3. And the final answer will be negative 17 over 3. So that's a lot of work here because there are fractions involved. Now let's try to annotate. The first thing that I did, same thing, we do substitution. Substitute the x with negative 2 and use brackets. After that, it's all the review of the previous parts. First, oh yeah, we also need to write down that a number and bracket right next to each other means they are multiplied. Okay, so in this case, we had 1 over 3 times bracket negative 2 close bracket. It means that the two numbers are multiplied. And same thing for the 1 over 3x here. It's an agreement in math that if you have a number and a variable right next to each other, they're multiplied to each other. We often omit that notation of multiplication, but we need to know that. And then I did some fraction work. Switch negative 2 to negative 2 over 1 to multiply. And then I did the work. And then I switched 5 over 1 to subtract. And then I did multiply the second fraction by 3 to have common denominator. And we subtract, and we're done. Now let's review some vocabulary and some key formula that we learned today. First, we learn about the expression. The expression is a mathematical phrase that contains numbers and a variable. Notice that expression is not an equation. Expression will not include an equation in it. However, equation does have expression in it. The left-hand side and the right-hand side are going to be expressions. The second part is to evaluate. Evaluate means that we substitute a variable with a given number to find the value of the expression. And once again, why are we learning this? Because in the previous lessons, we learned how to solve equations. When we solve an equation, we get x equals something. Well, we want to verify that we got the right answer. So what we'll do, after you get the solution, you're going to evaluate that expression with the x value that you got to see if the equation actually is true or not. So that's called the validation of your work. That's checking your work, checking your equation, checking your solution, whether you got it right or wrong. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.